Hello everyone, this is Tina from Tiaza's Treasures, and today I'll be using the May card kit of the month from MainMayKit. So on this first card, I've got this cardstock that came in the kit. It's got a texture. It's a really cool cardstock from Basil. And I cut that down to an A2 card size and taped that on my base, as you can see here. And I am going to be taking this real pretty pattern paper. I think it's my favorite pattern paper in the kit. And I'm cutting that down. So we've got about 1/4 of an inch on every side. So I cut it down to 3 3/4 by 5, I believe. So that gives me 1/4 of an inch. And I'm letting the pattern paper do most of the work on this first card. It's got like white butterflies on a wood grain pattern, which it's really pretty. So I'm taking the sentiment, and the sentiment says, "I cannot wait to see you soar." So I go ahead and I stamp that on using my MISTI, and I'm going to heat emboss it because I want to make sure it doesn't smear on the pattern paper. Now I'm using VersaFine Black Onyx ink on this. It's my favorite ink. I just love the way it shows up. And you can see I use my little dry eraser to push down on the MISTI. Now I'm just taking some clear embossing powder and the magic of video that's already done. I didn't want to subject you to having to watch me go ahead and emboss that. And so I taped that onto my card base on top of the cardstock. And I'm going to be adding a few enamel dots. Now I had a lot of problems with this video. It's the first time using a new video camera. And when I uploaded it, I lost certain cards. This one, not so much. This one I got the whole video of. But you'll see on some of my other cards, the footage it looked fine when I uploaded it. But for some reason it was corrupt. And after spending a few hours trying to get the footage, I just gave up. So, you know, it's just one of those things. I have most of the footage for all 5 cards, though. So this is card number 1. I also stamped on the inside, "I believe in you." So it's like, "I cannot wait to see you soar." And you open it up and it says, "I believe in you." The second card I embossed using the embossing folder that came with the MainMayKit kit. And I had a little bit of issue. I was going to take my blue ink, the blue ink, I believe, yeah, from Stampin' Up, that kind of matches some of the colors, and I thought I would lightly put it on the raised embossing. Instead, you can see it just totally did not work. So, you know, I went to a second piece of pattern paper, and I ink blended the middle to give it some of that color instead. So, you know, if you screw up, usually there's always a way to kind of fix it. In this case, I couldn't fix the pattern paper I started with, but I was able to take the same second piece of pattern paper and emboss that and go ahead and still use some of that ink on it like I wanted to. So I ink blended out the middle and I lightly used it to raise the sides. Then I took the word die, Sweet Friend, and using some of the very, very light gray cardstock that came in the kit, I cut the shadow layer. And now you're seeing, because I forgot to cut out the words from the middle of the pattern paper before I glued it down, I am cutting another piece of cardstock, not pattern paper, it's cardstock that came in the kit. It's the same one that I used on the first card. So I'm putting a little bit of double-sided adhesive. You got to be careful to get it on the right side. Sometimes I I cut into it instead of putting it on the back side of my cardstock. So I taped down Sweet Friend, and I'm going to be die cutting this. So I run that through my die cut machine. Here we go. And I'm using my Gemini Junior, which I love using that. So I end up with the two words Sweet Friend, and it takes a little bit of a struggle to get them out of the cardstock, but I sped this up a little bit so you didn't have to watch me struggle with the whole thing. And boom, there it is. Now I'm going to be putting those words on the shadow layer. They've got the double-backed adhesive on them, so I'm able just to press them down. And I'm going to end up popping them up using some foam tape in the middle of the card. Now this card is the one that I lost the footage coming up. You'll see that I put the card on the card base. So I'm going ahead and I'm taping that down here. And the card, it's going to be a little off. You're going to see a little bit white popping out there. So I go ahead and it drives me nuts. So I trim that off. And now I'm putting these in the middle before I put the foam tape on. And once I have the foam tape on, they're going to be arranged like you see it. And I'm going to end up putting them in the middle, and then I'm going to use a few enamel dots. And this is where I lose footage. So here's the finished card. It says Sweet Friend, and on the inside it said, I believe in you. So for the third card, I took this beautiful butterfly stamp that came with the kit, and I die cut it out after I had colored it. Now I colored it using Copic markers, and the colors I used for the blue were B12, B16, and B18, and for the purple I used BV11, BV13, and BV17. So you see I took this butterfly pattern paper and I cut that out the size of the card base, and I'm going to be putting the butterfly that I die cut on top of that. So there we go, die cut like magic. Poof. Let's see, it's going to take me a little bit longer to get it out of the, get the tape off. You got to be careful even with this mint tape, because it will grab your image and it will tear if you're not careful. And that's what I thought was happening at first, but it just left some glue on there, which was really strange. So I pop that out, here we go, and I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the back of that. Now, I want to end up putting this sentiment that says spread your wings on the bottom underneath. And now this is where I kind of messed up. When I taped that pattern paper down, I should have actually heat embossed the sentiment first, because it can really warp your card base if you're not careful. So I did end up stamping it in here using my Misty, stamping it in here. What does that mean? I ended up stamping it on the card using the Misty. And I used my Onyx Black ink again, because I just find that works really well. And as usual, I forgot to use my anti-static bag, which didn't really, give me any problem with the clear embossing powder. If I would have used color, I might have seen it more. But anyhow, I digress. So here I am putting the embossing powder on, and with the magic of video, it's done. I've already embossed it. Now you get to see me. I'm putting on that tape. And I'm going to end up using a T-ruler so I can center this nice. I don't want it to be all crooked, which I do a lot too. So I attach that butterfly to the card base, and that is it. I did end up using the Spectrum Noir glitter pen to really give some sparkle and shine to the butterfly. and it's so lovely when you really see it. I don't know that you can see it here in this photo. It doesn't do it justice, but I love the way it turned out. Now for card number, what is this we're on? Card number 4 already. I took some purple textured pattern paper, and using the stencil that came in the kit, I went ahead and I daubed on some white butterflies through it. Now this is another card that I lost some of the footage for. As you can see, it just kind of jumped around. And I wanted to heat emboss a butterfly on this pattern, the cardstock, which has the little raised dots all over it. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, or how it was going to turn out, but I thought I'd give it a try. So I went ahead and I used the VersaFine Black Onyx ink. You just heard my dog, which they like barking or making noise when I'm doing voiceovers. So anyhow, yeah, now we're going to heat emboss this butterfly. And I use my clear embossing powder over this. And I'm going to get this all heat embossed for you. And let's see, we're going to have some magic video again. So I take that and I'm just wiping up a little bit. I don't know why I left this in the video, just so you know I'm not as messy as it shows sometimes. And so I do a little bit of heat embossing and boom, done again. And now I'm taking the sentiment, which I did not tape. I don't know why I didn't tape myself stamping it out, but it's on the pattern paper, the back side, so there's no texture. And I stamped out butterfly kisses and best wishes. And then I kind of put an angle in that. And I'm going to be taping the cardstock to the card base. And again, there's a little bit of white showing, so I trimmed that off. And I put my sentiment there in the middle. I just think it really kind of looks well with such a big stamped image. You want to draw the eye to that. You don't want the sentiment off in the bottom where your eye is kind of not drawn to it. This way, everything is right there and it's visually pleasing. And as you can see, I pop that up and I end up adding some enamel dots as well to this. And I really love the enamel dots that came with this kit. They've got some glitter in them and they're really pretty. I used almost everything exclusively in the kit, save for some inks and a piece of vellum I use on the next card. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I used that wasn't in the card kit. My card bases didn't come with the kit. Those were mine. And the card base I use on the next card is one of mine as well. I think it's one that came from a Simon Says kit, which it's this really pretty ivory color. So anyway, that's card number 4. Now card number 5, I lose some of the footage as well, and I didn't really film, for whatever reason, myself cutting out this butterfly. So I glue the butterfly down, and I'm using the ivory card base. And I end up loving the way this looks, but I'm trying to figure out, well, I want the sentiment to go across it. And I've got a piece of ivory cardstock to the side there, but I also heat emboss it on a piece of vellum. And I'm not sure if that's going to work or not, but when I put it over the butterfly, I think it really looks great. And so I cut that out. So it's just a strip, and you can see I glued it on. I lost more footage, and here I am taking some of the sequins that were in the kit, and we're like, nope, those aren't going to match, not the right color. And I end up putting some more enamel dots on this card. Now this card was watercolored. I used watercolor pencils to get the color on it. And I just think it turned out really great. I'm not much into watercoloring. I was originally trying to use my gold watercolors on it, and they just smeared. It just didn't work out. So I went back and I used my colored pencils and was able to get a really good look on this. So anyhow, that is all 5 cards. You're going to have to let me know which one you like the best. If you have a favorite, I would love to hear it. Card number 5. The dogs are kind of making some noise in the background again. Oh, there they go. Card 1. There's all of the cards. You see, you know what? I just love the way all of these look. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please like and or subscribe. I'm really close to one of my goals of 50 subscribers. Bye for now. Thank you.